All right, well, good evening. Is this on? Doesn't sound, is it on? Boom, boom, boom. Welcome to the March 13th Planning Commission meeting. Want to do call order?
Commissioner Miranda.
Here.
Commissioner Lee.
Here.
Commissioner Thorson.
Present.
Commissioner Strauss.
Here.
Commissioner Hamilton.
Here.
Commissioner Berube.
Here.
Chair Olson.
Here, thank you. Next is the approval of the meeting agenda. Were there any edits or changes, or is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
Second.
Second, all in favor? Aye, motion carries. Next, we have two meeting minutes to approve. So the first is the Planning Commission February 13th meeting minutes. Did anyone have any edits to those?
I have a very small edit.
Sure.
On page 3, the motion on the public hearing for the Pentagon Park South rezoning, I voted A and nay, apparently, and I didn't vote nay. So.
Okay. Good catch. Okay.
I also had a few edits. On page 3, under discussion, comments, the first line, Commissioners asked Planner Boddicker, what is the basis for the average 8-foot 8-inch? I'd like to insert basement ceiling height. And on page 4, under discussion and comments, the second bullet, I would strike the first sentence and rewrite that as, and I will submit these to be recorded. Oh, I'm sorry. Up at the top, first paragraph, about the 6th, 7th, 8th line down, under Weston, if we could add at the applicant Weston explained. Only because he actually spoke later, and we all knew who he was, but at that point, or she. And then back down to the bottom of the page, or the under discussion and comments. Commissioners discussed setting a floor-to-floor height from the basement floor to the top of the first floor. I would strike that first sentence and replace it with that language. Again, I'll provide that. Under discussion, comments, and questions at the very end, I'd like to add an additional bullet. Commissioners noted, although applicant comments should be heard, it should not be the only basis for deciding. A variance approval often sets a precedent, and having some analysis provides a factual basis for how we decide. That's all.
No idea what she's talking
So
about.
I guess I have a question. I know we don't do these verbatim anymore, but, and not that I don't trust Sue, I trust her. But, you know, that's kind of substantial.
If that was specifically stated at the meeting, it could go in.
Can we confirm that, or do we? I don't remember, so.
The tape is the official,
Okay.
the
Right.
official record.
Okay. I mean, I'm just throwing that out. I'm fine with whatever everyone else thinks.
And I will leave that up to staff to
Okay.
confirm it.
Sweet, that's great.
Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, any others? No?
I'll move approval of the minutes as amended.
Second.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. So the next one are the February 27th Planning Commission meeting minutes. Any changes?
Do you?
Yeah,
Yes.
go for it.
On page 2, under discussion and comments, third bullet, commissioners asked where the design guidelines, beginning with that.
Wait, where are you, Sue? Sorry.
Sorry,
Third bullet, you said?
I'm on the wrong page. Page 4.
Okay. Third bullet?
Third bullet, yep. Commissioners asked where the design guidelines would go. I would like to add an additional bullet before that as that was the discussion with Mick Johnson. The additional bullet would say, would state, Johnson stated that the landscape and tree canopy should dominate the setback area and design experience. Trees on France are every bit as important to establish the tree line as the buildings themselves. On page 5, at the top of the page, beginning with John Carlson. John Carlson expressed concern. I'd strike about 7,200 and begin, express concern about the Southdale guidelines not being directive enough, and then continue with, because of this, the 7,200 and 7,250 France Avenue townhomes, etc. And then I'd also like to insert, after that sentence, Carlson questioned the effectiveness of design guidelines if they are not directive enough to developers and developers choose not to follow them.
Okay, so again, staff will confirm those comments. Okay, thank you. So with that caveat,
I will move approval of the minutes as amended, subject to staff review.
Second.
second. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. All right, I just lost my agenda. Okay, so we have one public hearing tonight, and it's a variance request for 4430 Garrison Avenue. And it'll be Chris.
Chair, members of the Planning Commission, the variance request is at 4430 Garrison Lane. It consists of a 2.2-foot front yard setback variance for an open porch addition and a variance to rebuild a non-conforming detached garage in the same location. The difference is there'll be some attic storage that will be added to the non-conforming garage. It's non-conforming because it's located within 50 feet of a water body, and they would be able to rebuild it exactly the same way, in the same location within the 50-foot setback, but it's a 20 by 20 garage, which doesn't give them a lot of storage, so they wanted to increase the roof pitch. It still meets our overall height requirement for detached garages of 18 feet. So the subject property is located along the north side of Garrison Lane, as highlighted. It consists of a 1.5-story home with a detached 2-car garage. It does back up to a ponding area. This is a more recent photograph of the existing home. There's a detached garage behind the home, which they hope to tear down and rebuild. The existing home is a 1.5-story home. They will be adding a full second floor onto the home, as well as a very small mudroom addition off the back. The mudroom addition off the back, and then a small front porch out the front, in front of the existing front entry, which will be approximately 79 square feet, are the only footprint additions to the home, although it will be taller because they are adding a second story. But all of that falls within the ordinance requirements. The two variants that they are requesting involve the front porch addition, which actually in most situations is allowed. You're allowed up to an 80 square foot porch within the front yard setback area. However, there is a caveat to that. You're not supposed to be any closer than 20 feet to the front lot line. Unfortunately, most of the homes along the north side of Garrison Lane are pushed up closer to the street, so that I believe that they are providing a deeper setback from the ponding area. So they're within, most of them are within, or all of them are within the 30-foot setback of any new subdivision. So here's some photographs of the back of the home as well as that existing non-conforming garage. Here are drawings of the existing home as well as the existing floor plans. Really, the only change to the main floor would be that mudroom addition off the back, the small front porch in front of the existing door, and then they would be removing that existing half-story and replacing it with a full two-story, which does meet our ordinance requirements. This is a survey of the existing home. It is showing that new front porch and also the addition of that small mudroom. And then the garage will be the same dimensions and in the same location as the existing non-conforming garage. Now, the areas that are dashed in red are the setback areas that all improvements are supposed to be maintained within. Clearly, the garage does not meet those setback requirements. Their intention is just to rebuild it and then add some attic storage. And then you can see that 20-foot setback that's required for any porch area, and you see a small overlap into that required setback. Here are some street views of the existing home, and then the home to the west, and also the home to the east. Some elevations of the proposed improvements. The proposed floor plan, they will be rearranging some spaces. The full second floor addition, here's the small mudroom addition, and then that small front entry porch. It's actually quite small because the existing front entry does take up some of that space within the porch area. More detailed version of the floor plans, and then some elevations showing sides, the rear with that mudroom addition. Here is the area in question, the 2.2-foot front yard setback variance for the open porch. It's not enclosed area. Typically, they would be allowed to put an 80-square-foot porch in the front yard area, but again, the ordinance does limit it to a 20-foot setback. And then the new garage, which has a steeper pitched roof. It's still under the overall 18-foot height requirement, and then this is the area in question, that attic storage space, the higher pitched roof than the existing garage. A 20 by 20, roughly 400 square foot garage is about the minimum two-car garage we would consider issuing a permit and considering a two-car garage. It's still very small and limited in terms of any additional storage beyond 2 cars. So I can appreciate that they would want to add some sort of storage, and they're not asking to add to the footprint. They're instead just trying to work within the height ordinance that is currently allowed for a detached structure. So here's more of a street view of the existing conditions, and then the proposed second floor addition, which does meet all of the ordinance requirements. It would be the 2.2-foot front yard setback variance, as well as rebuilding the garage within the 50-foot setback with the existing dimensions, with the exception of the increased roof pitch. Now, regarding grading and drainage, the engineering department has reviewed it. The proposed stormwater management plan does not propose any additional drainage to neighboring private properties. The applicant is proposing using graded swales to control any existing and proposed runoff. It's, again, very minimal impact in terms of additional square footage to this space. So the primary issue, does the proposed new home meet the criteria for approval of variances? The proposed use is permitted in the R1 single dwelling unit district and complies with all the zoning standards, with the exception of the new front porch and attic trusses in the detached garage. All of the homes, again, along Garrison on the north side are closer than what would be currently would be allowed in terms of front yard setback. So you already have the homes a little bit closer, and they are offset, so it's not as if they are exactly lined up. And a front entry porch has always been an exception. It's just the fact that they're closer to that front lot line that they are unable to meet that minimum 20-foot setback. The minimal variants allow for enhancements to a plan that conforms in all other respects to the zoning ordinance. The porch does break up the front building mass, and that's been part of the design intention. The porch will not be across the entire front facade. It's just in the area where that front door is. And the proposed home design project fits the character of the neighborhood in height and scale and mass. The home addition and garage attic trusses are appropriate in size and scale for the lot, and the improvements will enhance the property. Staff views these are rather minimal variance request, and do support the request. And with that, I will stop and answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Chris. Are there questions? Jerry?
Chris, that setback, that front porch is, I mean, that 2 or whatever, 1.5 foot, are the steps to the porch, is that the infraction, or is it actually across?
No, it's actually some of the posts, but it's very minimal. Steps can actually go beyond the porch.
Okay, so that's right. And this 20-foot requirement, that's a set number, I mean, that's not based on the setbacks of the other houses on the street, or how did that?
No, that's actually, in any R1 district, you're allowed to have an 80-square-foot porch overlap into the front yard setback area. So they would be allowed to do that. However, the 80 square feet really doesn't define the design of it, so it could be a very long, narrow front porch. And so at the time when that was accepted from the ordinance requirement, and I don't know why they picked the number 20, but they felt at the time, the council felt that 20 feet was a comfortable distance depending upon what sort of configuration that 80 square feet could end up being. It could be long and narrow, or it could be skinny and long, or, but 20 feet was what they came up with. Now, there are a lot of neighborhoods just like this one in Edina, Morningside, and some other areas in the east part of Edina where the homes were just naturally built closer to the street. So their opportunities are a little bit different.
It seems such a small thing, and I thought it did a very nice job designing, for the existing neighborhood. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions for Chris? Is that a no? Yeah. Chris, I just had a quick one. So the footprints for the garage is the same, but we require if there's any expansion in the square footage,
If there's
have
a
to get a
change, if
variance?
there's an expansion, because they have a different roof pitch and they're actually adding, it's attic storage, can't really do much else with it.
Right.
But you can maintain, repair, replace an existing non-conforming structure as it exists today. So they could actually replace it with the same roof and they wouldn't have to be asking for a variance. But in order for them to get a little bit of added storage above, it's a change, it's different. So they do need to come before
All right.
and ask for a variance.
So it is because it's a little bit bigger, but it's not the
Right.
footprint.
But
which
it
seems-
still meets our height requirement.
Yeah, no, I'm actually kind of the other way, thinking that's kind of, why are we requiring a variance for that when it's in the same spot, but
Right.
on same footprint? Okay, thank you. So is the applicant here with, you don't have to, but you can come up if anyone has questions for you. Yeah, so you could just go and speak and just give your name and address. Again, you don't have to, but this is nice
Jesse
opportunity.
Moen, and I live at 4430 Garrison Lane, the property that we're looking at.
And I'm Sarah Moen. I live there as well.
Have any questions for the applicant, or now that I made him stand up? No. Okay, go, good.
Did you consider any other options for the front porch, making it narrower, or, come out less and be a little bit wider or something, or?
No, we really didn't, did we? For the front porch? No.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
I'll step over
Okay.
here. Lynn Cheers with Socorro Design Build. I did the design. Yeah, we came out as minimal as possible, from that front foyer, which is proud of the front of the home anyhow, to give them enough of a covered entry, as well as there is an old well room under that existing concrete stoop that has the water meter and everything in it. So basically, our front porch just covers the old well room. So we have to do something because that exists in the basement.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
So this is a public hearing. And is there anyone who'd like to speak? Nope. Is there a motion?
I move to close the public hearing.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. So bringing it back to the Planning Commission, any comments, motions?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's tastefully done, and when a lot of houses nowadays have, give preeminence to the garage, I think they did a really nice job of kind of keeping that. The porch sticks out a little bit, but it's very welcoming, I think, from the street, and it really makes it a very nice design.
Go ahead.
I thought this was a very well-documented application. I did notice that it actually included a previous variance request that we had approved, so I just wanted to point that out, that what we do up here on the bench is paid attention to by others. That wasn't necessary in this case, because I do think that of many projects we've seen, this one really does kind of address the existing character in the area, so I was pleased to see that. I thought the drawings were very complete, easily understood, and provided the sort of the full front-on view of what the new design would look like next to its neighbors. So thank you very much for a job well done.
Okay, I'll move approval of the variance, subject to the conditions and findings outlined in the staff memo.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, thank you. Turn it off. Next is community comment. And I'm just looking out there, not seeing anybody. So is there a motion to?
I move to close community comment.
Yeah. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, Todd, you should go home. Are you okay?
I'm alive.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So next is reports and recommendations, and we have 7200, 7250 redevelopment plans, and we have to approve if the plans are consistent with the comprehensive plan. Is there a presentation at all with this, or?
Just me, I'll just
Okay.
give an introduction. So before the Planning Commission is part of the 7200, 7250 France redevelopment project that was recently approved by the City Council, at least on a preliminary rezoning. They still do have to come back for final rezoning, and the council hasn't acted on the TIF agreement as of yet. But by state statutes, planning commissions are asked to make a finding that the development plans within the TIF agreement are consistent with our comprehensive plan. So there have been no changes to the plan that was approved from the City Council. As you recall, we amended the comprehensive plan to accommodate this project, to increase the density just for this site in that OR district on the west side of France, up to 60 units an acre. The Met Council, at their February 13th meeting, approved the comprehensive plan amendment. I handed that out this evening, so you see that that's been documented, that the 2008 plan has been updated to accommodate this project. So staff would recommend that you approve the resolution that's before you that finds that the development plans are consistent with the comprehensive plan. There were some questions at your last Planning Commission meeting about this project in regard to the 10 townhomes that are provided on the west side to kind of provide that transition buffer zone. So to give you a little update on that, that is still in that is part of this development plan. It would be developed as the second phase, being that those 10 units are owner occupied. The feeling is it would be difficult to sell those units with the construction of the two buildings. So the idea is to build those two buildings first, put put in all the public improvements, the Woonerf, all of that. Then the second phase of the development would be the townhomes. As part of that first phase development, where the two larger buildings are built, a portion of the garages would be constructed for the owner-occupied townhomes, but they would be obviously completed as part of the second phase. There is some language in the TIF agreement that requires those to be built, and there's some clawbacks. The developer doesn't receive all of the TIF if those aren't built. Another piece of this is this was rezoned, or subject to the council giving final approval, rezoned to PUD. So really, by zoning ordinance also, the only thing that could be built within that area is those 10-unit townhomes. If anybody were to propose something new, it would be a zoning ordinance amendment, and it would come through the process through Planning Commission and City Council. So with that, staff would recommend that you adopt the resolution that's before you.
Thank you, Carrie. Are there questions for Carrie?
I have a question for Carrie. Carrie, those townhomes were part of the transition zone, which is a critical element of sort of that idea of that project being approved. I would imagine that it would be difficult for another developer to choose to come in later, if they did not get built by the current developer, for some other developer to come in and want to do that cost effectively. Has there been any thought on would TIF funding be extended to that developer to help finance the development of those townhomes?
Whether they would make a request for another TIF request, I can't imagine that scenario.
But that's sort of what's lending the affordability component to this, and it makes sense to build that as part of the greater project for the cost savings. So I'm just wondering if in fact there's a possibility that they won't get built, because it is the transition zone. And obviously this is outside of the scope of sort of this TIF district stuff, but I just thought I'd ask, since you had just covered that, if you had thoughts
and
about that.
the zoning too, this is part of why we do the PUD. You have to build within that PUD ordinance. You have to build what was proposed, and someone can always request a change, but they do have to go through that same rezoning process. City isn't obligated to change that zoning.
And what was the timeline for phase 2?
Yeah, so the idea is, let's see, I got that written down here somewhere. The intent is to begin construction in 2022, to be completed by 2027. You may recall the development right across the street, the 71 France, the apartments. That project was supposed to be done in 3 phases, with the last phase not beginning for 10 years. That was the initial intent, but those were all built within 2 years. So while these are kind of what is being projected now, maybe it could be built closer to that 2022. This is a prime development site.
I find it interesting that the developer thought that somehow it would be undesirable to build those now. I guess I just don't quite see that logic, but okay. Thank you.
Great. Is there any more questions? Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
I move approval of the resolution as submitted.
Is there a second? Second. Multiple. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Oh, were there any nays? I'm sorry. Were there nays?
There was supposed to be a discussion period, but I guess we passed that.
Totally. Did you have anything beyond what you were just saying? That we focused on whether or not this was consistent with the comprehensive plan?
I think we're beyond that point. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. So next we have the comprehensive plan update. And And I guess Carrie, can you just provide that? I know I asked for, you gave me a lot of good numbers, but if you can just summarize what happened on Monday?
Yes, so we had our open house down at Public Works on Monday. To be honest, I was anticipating that we would have a little larger turnout. But there were 35 non-commissioners at the meeting, 65 in total, so we were 1-to-1 with the residents that were there, so 65 in total. But I can say since we went live with the Better Together, we have had 398 people sign up. So I might attribute the not as large of attendance to the website, and residents possibly seeing that they can provide feedback, they can see the plan, and provide feedback online. So it's nice to have options if you can't attend the meeting. We've had 5 people leave comments so far, a number of comments from those 5 people. So I would anticipate that we'll get more and more as time goes by.
There's also been some questions and answers posted already too. I saw that. Or...
Yeah, there is a Q&A section as well.
Okay. Go ahead.
Carrie, is there a possibility to get the presentation posted, the boards, for those who couldn't
Sure.
attend?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, just
We
put
can
it
sure do
somewhere
that.
on a link.
Mm-hmm.
Great. I could like even post that on the website.
Kaylin was already planning that.
I just want to say I've had a few interactions with the members of the city communication department. I think they're doing an outstanding job on this Better Together. Just hearing right now that Kaylin's already planning that just confirms earlier communications that I've had. So you guys are just really, this is, I think, a real benefit to the city. You guys are doing a great job.
Thank you. So we have correspondence and petitions. Nope. Moving on, chair and member comments. Any other chair, member comment? My comment was just going to be talking about the comp plan, so staff?
Just one quick thing. At our next meeting, we will have our annual meeting, and that is where we take a look at the bylaws and do elections. So that'll be at your next meeting.
Great. All right. So go ahead. Yeah, well, every year you have to,
Yeah, so we
nominate.
do this every year. Joanne is eligible to be chair one more year under the terms, but we do the election still each year.
Great. Anything else? Cool. Okay, great. Well, that was super fast. It's a record.
Nothing like having a cold chair.
Motion.
I'd like to move to adjourn the meeting.
Is there a second? Any discussion? I'll make up for it here. All in favor? Aye. Motion. Aye.